to leash, or not to leash? That is the question.
Should you leash your jungler in 2025? Most people have stopped doing it, myself included. But are we just sheep following a trend? Today I want to find out and dive into the costs and benefits of leashing. Do you still leash your jungler? And if you do, what elo are you? Hello and welcome to another entry in the League Encyclopedia. I'm Robin, and today we're talking about the rather controversial topic of leashing your jungler. What once was a given has become a hot topic here in the community. Before we get into it, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm getting close to 200, and that's just absolutely wild to me, but it'd be awesome to hit that milestone. Anyway, back to the video. So for anyone unaware, leashing is when you help your jungler with their first camp, usually in the form of 3 to 5 auto attacks and maybe a spell if your mana costs are pretty low. The idea being that it leaves your jungler with more health so they're less susceptible to counter jungling and increases the speed at which they farm their camps. Of course, there is an opportunity cost to leashing for the laners and an information cost on the part of the jungler, both of which we'll get into. First, I want to talk about the benefits and explain why they aren't as pertinent anymore. So, leaving your jungler with higher HP just isn't really a problem anymore because of the same jungle changes that made Zyra and Brand and others like them viable. See, what Riot did is they made every camp heal you when slain through the jungle item. And since the heal scales with missing health, even junglers who otherwise would get chunked out heal for a ton and can just move on to the next camp, no problem. To demonstrate just how busted this is, here's me in a game doing just the worst job at clearing jungle as he, but you can see I don't really have a problem. I just heal after each camp. It got a little dicey at Krugs, but that's because I wasn't using my abilities, I wasn't kiting them, I was just auto-attacking. I know Riot did this to make jungling easier overall, and they succeeded at that. But I do think something was lost when they made kiting camps basically irrelevant. It's still optimal, of course, and the best players still do it, but it's certainly not required. As another example of how irrelevant the health advantage argument has become, I played 2 games here. One where my team leashed me, and the other where they just didn't. And you can see that my health bar is just basically the same the whole time. So if health is no longer a concern, what about clear speed? Well, this is where it gets a little less clean cut, and is one of the primary reasons there's even discourse to begin with. It's no secret that some junglers clear faster than others, but one of the things Riot has also done semi-recently is flatten that jungle clear speed timer. I talked about this in one of my patch reviews, but basically, most junglers clear at a closer rate to each other than ever before. So again, here's those games where I had a leash and where I didn't. Playing arguably one of the slowest clear speed junglers in the game, we see that helping me with blue buff accelerated me by about 13 seconds in just camp clear speed. I also did this for one of the fastest clear speed junglers to sort of compare the upper and lower end basically. And with Zyra, my clear speed was increased by only 7 seconds or so. Now, if you factor in a Scuttle Crab as part of the clear, the effects are a lot less. Like with Rammus, it only ended up being a difference of 5 seconds, while with Zyra, it was more like 2 seconds. So those are the benefits of a leash. Now let's talk about the costs. And there's 2 key ones I hear cited often. The first is lane priority. And the talking point goes something along the lines of, I give up lane priority by leashing. And that's kind of true. But here we also have our first problem. At lower elos, and I'll leave it up to you to decide what that means, players don't know about lane priority, or what to do with it anyway, so giving it up doesn't really matter. They're going to fight no matter who has priority. That's literally what low elo players tend to do. At mid-range elos, players know about lane priority, as a concept, but half of them don't know what to do with it, and the other half think you can get it just by fighting over it. And at elite levels, players know what it is, they know what to do with it, but they also know that lane priority is most often determined simply by theory rather than your willingness to scrap at level 1. That's not to say that you can't fight for priority, but if you're up against a Lucian Nami, for example, then I just have to ask, why do you think you can contest that? To tie it into pro play, the reason we've had so many lane swaps this past year is because players know their draft wouldn't have priority even without leashing. So they move away from that lane to get that level 3 where they can at least stand a chance. So while I agree that you do concede lane priority by leashing, I would say unless you're playing the lane that should have priority, you're actually not losing anything by leashing. The second talking point I hear often is that it reveals the jungler's starting position. Again, this is true, kind of, so let's break it down. At low elos, no one knows what to do with that information, so who cares? At mid-range elos, the enemy jungler might know what to do with that information. But if they're the kind of jungler that knows that, you know what else they probably know? Your starting position, already, just based on the champion you're playing. Moreover, they might also be the kind of jungler that drops a ward on the Raptor camp to deduce your starting position anyway. And at elite levels, there's almost always a ward near Raptors. They almost certainly know where you're starting based on your champion, and you more than likely know their starting position too. And if you don't, and are worried about an invade, you're warding your own jungle to react to that. Not to mention, the very moment either one of you is spotted on the map, anywhere, pretty much every laner can deduce what path you took based on your farm and what buffs you have. So this argument that you're revealing your jungler's position by leashing is a bunch of crap in my opinion. But even if we buy into the idea that it matters, the easiest way around that is to just have your top laner also pretend to leash. And not even for a long time, just enough to sow doubt. Okay, so to my mind, the benefits clearly outweigh the costs, especially at lower elos. And at higher levels, I'd say it depends on two things: your own ability to contest for lane priority and your jungler's clear speed. Are you playing Lucian Nami? Don't leash. Are you playing Zeri Yumi? Yeah, you can leash. You're going to lose lane probably anyway. Is your jungler unconventional or particularly slow? Yeah, leash that guy. You're on the same team, so why not set them up for success? Ultimately, I think it's one of those things that's become a case-by-case basis in League, rather than a hard and fast rule like it used to be. I'm not a jungle main though, so I'd love to hear from the junglers out there. Do you still want to leash? Why or why not? Anyway, that's all I had for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. And again, consider subscribing if you like this breakdown of leashing in 2025 or 2024. And I hope to see you in the next entry of the League Encyclopedia.